to rock and roll. So this is a special edition building off of our Saturday breathing sessions, and really have been looking forward to doing a World Breathing Day experience. I can remember last year around this time I was in California with the Wim Hof instructor group having a reunion with Wim, and I just had learned about this day, World Breathing Day, and I was like, I want to do this next year. So proactively planned ahead to make this happen, and am so grateful for all of you for joining. Just checking in, am I coming through on the speaker view or? Okay, super. So we have a very robust platform today to dive into. I know that many of you who I've worked with for years now, some who are joining for the first time. So welcome to everybody, and thank you for taking the time to be here and share this special day together. So we're gonna, just a lay of the land, we'll kick off with a light intro, and then we will segue into a breathing session. And as some of you have seen, we have a special guest today. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Andrew Huberman, who is a professor of neurobiology at Stanford University, and somebody who I deeply respect and really appreciate his contribution to this work from the perspective and the field of neuroscience. He's done some amazing work with vision, neuroplasticity, and across the board is just a genuine gentleman, and I'm so grateful to have him on joining us today. I think I saw him hop in. So I'd like to introduce Andrew, and what we'll do before we get into the breathing session today is have an opportunity to hear from him, to share about the neuroscience of breathing and human potential, this theme of neuroplasticity, which he speaks so eloquently about, and something that I appreciate so much within what he's sharing is taking this time to really offer up and be so generous to share education. If you've seen him on Instagram, you know, all of these different projects he's working on, he is constantly on there and sharing these awesome little tidbits. So it's a pleasure to introduce Andrew to you all, and we'll spend some time hearing from him, from his perspective. And as I see some chats are coming in, so if you guys do have questions or you want to share anything from where you're at, I know there's people from Nicaragua joining, all over the country, UK. So we're live and alive on World Breathing Day. And as Andrew begins diving into some stuff, if there are if there is a question or something you'd like to address, perhaps at the end of the breathe, we can do a little bit of Q&A. So without further ado, I'm just looking for his chat box here. Or Andrew, if you'd like, you could, or I'll unmute you now, and I'll.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I coming through clear?
Yes, sir. Welcome.
Okay, great. Thanks so much for the very kind intro, Sam, and really for inviting me on. It's a real honor and a privilege. I spend most of my time in my laboratory running experiments, and the opportunity to connect with the general public is really wonderful. And Sam, you've created a great community of people around you, and that's no coincidence. It's your kindness and your sincerity about the power of the work, and your just constant gives, and your amazing voiceover videos with your dog are among my favorite things. There are very few accounts I check every single day, but yours is one of them. So, because I always learn something, and it positively shifts my perspective. So thank you. And I also want to thank everyone else for logging on here. It's really wonderful. I mean, in this time of this, let's just call it what it is. It's an extraordinary time. It means different things to different people, but it is an extraordinary time. And it's wonderful to see that people are communing in this way, and certainly around our breath, which I view from the neuroscience standpoint and from the standpoint of physiology. We're convening around the thing that binds us all, which is our physiology. There's no getting around that. Doesn't matter which chromosomes you have, your genetics, what you've been through, your life experience. We are all bound by these common features that our species has around physiology. And today we'll be talking about respiration and breathing and its impact on the nervous system and so forth. Sam, do you want, there's one danger in inviting an academic anywhere. And so if you give them open rein, they'll just keep going. So what I would love would be, maybe you could just suggest some constraints. You want to give me a time block, and I can start, and I can talk a little bit about the science of breathing, and just give me a cap on that. And please, everyone and anyone, I've got the chat box open there on the right, and I'll try and keep an eye on it in my peripheral vision. And if you have a question, please do ask.
Super. Well, thanks for the intro, Andrew. And yeah, so I want to respect everyone's time. I also love to, in the way I love working with groups, is to make it more like a conversation. So in that sense, there's some people that have been practicing these breathing techniques for many years now, or have just been getting into it over the last few months. And so in your perspective, to discuss and link this connection between why conscious breathing practices are important. I know you talk a lot about real-time tools, and that this is kind of a time where we carve out specific time to practice. And so its implication on neuroplasticity and building stress tolerance. I know that's been a key thing we've been talking about over the last few months. And
yep.
So, and why that's important, why it's important to build that toolkit of breathing technique to understand and gain this, what I like to think of an awareness around state arousal, and how breathing is a direct link into regulating state arousal and its implication on neuroplasticity for stress tolerance.
Okay. So I'll take the next maybe 10 minutes and talk about that and entertain any questions, and then we can pause and pivot as needed. Does that sound good?
Super. Yeah, if people have some questions coming in, I'd love for you to have an opportunity to share within that context. And then what we'll do, 15, 20-ish minutes, then segue into a breathing session that I'll guide. And depending on your time, I want to acknowledge you for carving time out today to be with this group. And
my pleasure.
I know you're working on a book, so we're giving you a nice break to get away from the writing. And yeah, we'll just go with the flow. So questions, well.
Okay, well, that sets the frame well. Well, first of all, I just want to briefly mention a couple things that I think are important that perhaps you haven't heard before. And some of them might actually sound obvious when you hear them. But first of all is that, of course, we have organs throughout our body, and but arguably the organ that's most important, simply because it organizes the activity of all the other organs, is the nervous system. And then, so when I talk about the brain, I also mean the connections to the body, and I mean the body's connections to the brain. I don't really divorce those, because I've taught neuroanatomy for years, and I can tell you with certainty that the brain is connected to the body and the body is connected to the brain, and that's the primary function of each. And so I might say brain, but I really mean nervous system. The brain just kind of rolls off the tongue better. The other is, I don't really distinguish between the mind and the body, the mind and the brain terribly much. It's more of a philosophical discussion. It's something we could entertain, but I'm going to just use those phrases, brain and mind, rather interchangeably. So with this in mind, that the nervous system is the most powerful regulator of everything, our immune system, our voluntary movement system, we sort of have to ask, what does the nervous system do? What are its jobs? And really, it does 5 things, okay? It's responsible for sensations. So for taking in physical forces from the universe. These are not mystical. They are concrete, non-negotiable things like photons of light, pressure on the skin, sound waves. They're defined in physics textbooks. There's no negotiating them. And humans, we have a sensory apparatus in our tongue, in our eyes, in our ears, in our nose, and on our skin that allows us to take all those sensations, and we focus and filter out many of them all the time. They're happening all the time. They're bombarding us all the time. And our perceptions is the second thing. So we have sensations, then we have perceptions, and our perceptions are the ones that we're paying attention to. at any one moment, like maybe my voice, maybe your contact with the surface you're on, etc. Then we have feelings, which are a little bit vague, but feelings were really designed to shift our body and our brain toward either more activity or more quiescence, more calm. That's really what feelings were designed to do. They weren't designed to do anything else, as far as we know. So they're highly valuable, but so I'm not pushing them into a category of unimportant. They're quite important. So we've got sensations, perceptions, feelings, also called emotions, thoughts, which are really about organization and planning. Ultimately, that's what they're about. And then we have behaviors. So the nervous system is responsible for all of that: sensation, perception, feeling, thoughts, and behaviors. And it does that, but it doesn't do that alone. It does that by coordinating the activity of other organs so that they facilitate what's going on in our internal and external world. So our nervous system makes sure that our spleen is doing the right things, and our heart is doing the right things, and our lungs are doing the right things, depending on what's happening in the outside world. So the only other list I'm going to give you, well, I can't promise that, is going to be this. So your job every day, from when you wake up in the morning until you go to sleep at night, is really related to a particular interaction that involves three elements. And that's what we call your interoception, is how you feel on the inside. So how full my gut is, or empty my gut might be, how fast my heart is beating, whether or not I feel comfortable or uncomfortable, sad or happy, agitated or calm. So that's interoception. It's my concept of my sort of everything that's restricted to like the boundaries of my skin and inward, including my skull and brain. Then there's exteroception. It's seeing your faces. It's what's out in the world. And those two things are bound. I like to think of them as they're tethered. Now, why breathing? So the reason my laboratory is working on respiration as well as vision and other things, but we're just about to kick off a 1,000 subject study on breathing, is the following: that when we think about the nervous system and how we move and how we pick up a glass to drink, or we walk or we run, that's all voluntary movement, and that's obvious, right? The nervous system has connections to the body and back again. And many of you have heard of, say, the vagus nerve, for instance, where the vagus can be involved in calming. Well, the vagus nerve innervates a lot of organs. And indeed, if you eat a big meal and your stomach is slightly distended or full from that meal, it'll send signals back to the brain to calm the brain and put you to sleep. But there's only one organ in your entire body that is made up of skeletal muscle. So skeletal muscle is obviously what allows you to move your limbs. Your other organs have, like, say, cardiac muscle or smooth muscle. And the one organ is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is a muscle that was designed to be voluntarily or involuntarily moved, just like your limbs. Okay, so you can walk without thinking about it, or you can think about your cadence. You can dance without thinking about it if you're a skilled dancer, not like me, or you can think about it if you're trying to learn how to dance, also not like me. It's not at this moment in time. So your diaphragm is the one muscle that was of all the one organ, that has this feature of being skeletal muscle. It was designed to be consciously moved. And that is not a trivial feature. That tells us that it was designed to be controlled by our conscious thoughts. Now, there's a nerve called the phrenic nerve, Phrenic, the phrenic nerve that connects the brain to the diaphragm. And it's what's allowing my diaphragm to move and allows me to breathe all the time. It's the same nerve that allows me to consciously take control of my diaphragm anytime I want, which is what we do during dedicated breath work. Now, why am I sort of rattling all this off? Well, it turns out the diaphragm also sends a connection back up to the brain to inform the brain about the status of the body. If ever there was a connection in your body that was important for literally controlling your state of mind, it's this connection that is a loop that goes from the areas of the brainstem that control conscious breathing down to the phrenic nerve and back again. And that loop is the fastest way that we're aware of, as well as your vision, but today we're talking about breathing, the fastest way that we're aware of to control the mind, to control the brain and where your state of mind is. So there's a lot of mysticism out there about what the mind is, et cetera. I view the mind as the connections between the brain and the body working in unison. However well they're working or poorly they're working, our state of mind is the outgrowth of that communication between the brain and body and back again. And so this phrenic nerve connection that goes down to the diaphragm and back again is the most powerful way we can shift our mind. When our brain sees that phrenic nerve firing at a particular rate, it gets calm. When it sees that phrenic nerve firing, and when I say firing, I mean it sends electrical signals at a different rate, it gets alert. The brain needs to know what's happening in the body. The brain is a separate organ, and it gets that information like a text message, like a text that says, like, oh, this is really bad, or, oh, this is really good. Things are really good. Things are really bad. And so this loop is part of this process by which the brain is assessing what's going on in the outside world by looking and hearing and smelling, et cetera, and what's going on in the internal world. And interoception can seem very vague. It can start to seem really hard to capture. We can meditate, we can do a lot of things, but breathing is the entry point to understanding this process we call interoception, and it is immensely powerful. So hopefully that illustrates why respiration of all things is important. I can't consciously control my heart or consciously control my spleen or my liver directly, right? I could do certain things to elevate my heart rate, but it's very indirect. The diaphragm allows me direct control, not just of my breathing, but direct control over my state of mind. And it's a non-trivial thing to do that. And I'll just give a couple other examples, and I'll move specifically to some, I don't want to interfere with the actual breathing practices. So a couple other things. First of all, we all are able to have a stress response without ever learning anything. It's actually critical. And you might ask, why is that so prevalent? Well, when you were a little baby, and we all were little babies at one point, you didn't know if you were hungry or if you needed milk or you needed a diaper change. All you felt was anxiety. You felt a kind of an alertness and a sense of urgency. You cried, presumably, or whined, and something was delivered to you. Maybe it was breast milk, maybe it was food, maybe it was a diaper change, who knows? And you were calmed. So the first rule that your brain and body learned, its most fundamental rule, it's like you landed in the world, and it was like rule number one: when you feel anxious, look outside you to exteroception, to calm yourself. And it's no surprise then that so many people grow up into adulthood. Sometimes people live their entire lives without ever saying, wait, what are the aspects of my machinery that are contained within me, within my interoception, that allow me to calm myself? So it's this little trick that Mother Nature played on us, where we don't need to learn how to stress, but we need to learn how to consciously calm ourselves. So when I think about stress mitigation, or I think about calming, I think of two features. Of course, this is going to boil down to respiration, but there's sort of two things that I consider most critical. One is that you have tools that you can use in real time. So as things happen, as you get disturbing news, as you feel overwhelmed, as you're moving through your days, and maybe just you have a slight shift in your internal state, and while in the morning you felt great, in the afternoon you're feeling kind of low. It doesn't have to be stress. It can just feel low. You have to be able to deal with that in real time. And two, the most powerful ways that I know how to do that is to shift your inner landscape. You can use vision, but today we're talking about respiration. So one of the tools that I've put out on Instagram and elsewhere is based on a set of neurons in the brainstem that control sighing. We have neurons that control sighing. We have neurons that control coughing. We have neurons that control laughter. So these are primitive and ancient forms of expression and interacting with the others, but also with the way that our brain and body interacts. In fact, the example I like to use, I have a good friend who works on language, so speech and language. And when you smell something putrid, when you sense something putrid, you go, you exhale. It's actually a primitive form of language, but it was actually designed to push those molecules away. So you have neurons that control those sort of disgust exhales. And you have neurons that when you smell something delicious or something appetitive, as the scientists would like to call it, you'd say, and it's a guttural, and it's an inhale. You're bringing molecules in. These were ancient forms of learning to avoid or approach different things. Similarly, you have neurons that control sighing. And just like the disgust response or the yum response, let's call it that, the response, these neurons that were designed for sighing can work on their own, or you can control them voluntarily. And these neurons like double inhales followed by exhales. So one of the things that my laboratory is working on and the published science shows is that, not just from my work, but from other labs as well, I'd be happy to point you in the way of those references if you like, is that these neurons lead to a very fast trigger of the calming reflex. And I'm not getting into sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system because I don't want to bog us down with nomenclature. So as a real-time tool for dealing with stress, when things are bombarding you and you're not in the place you want to be, if your mind isn't, if it's too alert and you want to be calmer, the protocol I recommend is to do this double inhale. And I like to do it through the nose because that's most effective for reasons we can talk about, which is, so it's an inhale, another short inhale before you exhale, and then a long exhale. And ideally the exhale's through the mouth. Now, why? Turns out that the sacs in the lungs, which are called the alveoli of the lungs, the lungs are these big bags of air, but they have tons of little sacs to increase the surface area and the amount of air that can be brought in. And when you fill them up with that first inhale, they fill with oxygen. Then there's another inhale that fills them all the way. And that causes carbon dioxide, which is in the bloodstream, to sneak into those sacs so that when you exhale, you dump a little extra carbon dioxide, which brings your state of calm just back into the correct place. So there's double inhale followed by an exhale. You might have to repeat it 3 times. Double inhale followed by exhale. Double inhale followed by exhale is a real-time tool that you can use when you're even in discussion. Somebody saying, I know this never happens to any of you, but it happens to me. Someone will be saying something and I'm getting kind of triggered, or I need to get off a call and I don't want to be there or something. So I will. Okay. So very fast, real-time tool for pushing back on stress. The other tool that I think is very useful for people to have is sort of an offline tool or a breath practice. Now Sam's going to tell us a lot more about this because he's far more versed in this than I am, but those practices can be calming, right? Can educate your nervous system how to calm itself, or they can be of the sort which we call super oxygenated breathing, which is, Tumo breathing, Wim Hof breathing, these kinds of things where you're deliberately bringing your state of alertness up higher and then getting mentally calm in that state so that your brain and your mind are basically comfortable at higher levels of activation. What that is doing is essentially raising your stress threshold, what you consider stressful. Now, it has a couple benefits. One is it has been shown to stimulate the immune system in ways that are positive for combating infections of various kinds, in particular bacterial infections. There's less evidence about viral infections, but I would think that it would have the same general property of improving immunity. It's one that I do if I'm traveling or I'm feeling like a sore throat tick or something. I'll do this kind of super oxygenated breathing. Sam can take us through that if that's in the plan today. But having an offline tool or practice that you do maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day, you have to decide, is that practice about calming yourself? Is it about raising your stress threshold? Or perhaps the way we should be thinking about this is it should be more evolved than either of those. Maybe it's really about just teaching your brain to control the diaphragm through this phrenic nerve, just like you would train a muscle. And maybe it's about training the diaphragm to inform the brain and for you to interpret those signals. So it's really about neural plasticity, which is nature's gift to humans, which is our ability to direct our own changes in our nervous system to get it better and at doing certain things. This sort of adaptive quality, what I call self-directed adaptive plasticity. I only call it that to distinguish it from other forms of plasticity that come through outside events. So I look at breathing practices as a way to train my brain and body to communicate better, to understand the language that each is speaking, so to more or less. And that language is in the form of electrical signals and inhales and exhales and holds and what those mean. And so maybe a breathwork practice shouldn't be so much about achieving a specific state rather than teaching our brain and body to communicate and training up those circuits so that when we move through real life, those circuits are tuned up. In the same way that if you go to the gym and weightlift, you get that weightlifting gives you a pump in the muscle. There's blood infusion in the muscle. So you get a little glimpse of what it might look like if your muscle were hypertrophied. But a couple hours later, the muscle goes back to what it was, right? It's only through the adaptation response that it actually gets stronger. So I like to use breathing practices, the offline breathing practices, meaning the not real-time ones, as a way to train my nervous system to get more adept at communicating between brain and body. And I think for reasons that I don't want to go too long here, but for reasons we could discuss, that to me is the fundamental power of a respiration practice. And the last thing I'll say is, there's this kind of joke in the weightlifting community, don't skip leg day, like you'll see, it's usually guys, right? who have big upper bodies and no legs, and they'll say, yeah, like he skipped leg day. Well, don't skip diaphragm day, right? This is the one skeletal muscle inside you that is designed to be trained up and used for conscious control over the mind. And most people, not you because you're here, but don't skip diaphragm day. It doesn't sound as good as don't skip leg day, but most people don't skip it. It's not that they're not using their legs. They're walking around, they're standing, right? But they're not training them. And therefore they have this dramatic asymmetry in their body. And I think what we see in this point in human evolution is a traumatic asymmetry in people's nervous system, where this stuff is all built up. So they're thinking, they're planning, they're acting, they're checking YouTube. I do all these things, okay, of course, but they're not training the other aspect of their nervous system, which it just so happens sits down in the gut and was designed to connect the brain and body. So don't skip leg day, don't skip diaphragm day. And I guess today would be sort of like diaphragm day. I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Andrew. I think we got a new quote out there for not skipping leg day, not skipping diaphragm day. And every day is diaphragm day in my book. I think that's a really nice picture to paint in terms of, you know, what we're seeing even with these practices, and how working respiration, practicing and bringing this awareness, especially into context of breathing mechanics and its implication on the nervous system, that, you know, we're looking at a time of chronic stress and conditioning and patterns that we can get into, and, you know, that it's easy to look for a quick fix, or putting in the context of health and wellness, going to the gym for fitness, and how neglected our breathing can be. So, I mean, to everybody who's here, there's that spark in the mind around seeing that there is a value and a power in training and practicing this. And as now we continue to ripple effect and make this more accessible for people, that really it's such a simple, that's what I've found such a love in this practice, is that it's so simple, but as you start to train and connect these dots in terms of understanding the nervous system, and I think at the root of it, the awareness of understanding your state and how you can modulate your state to regulate these neurons and connect to these pathways through different rhythms of breath, whether it's inhale holds, exhale holds, tempo, that you're the conscious captain, as I like to say, and you can be that regulator of your chemistry through the way that you breathe.
One thing, Sam, there was a question someone asked. I'll just use this as an opportunity because it seems timely. So the question was, you know, why do you think this connection exists from the evolutionary perspective? And it's a great question. So, what is very interesting, actually. So mammals have a diaphragm, all mammals. So that's like all of us and primates and dogs and cats. Reptiles and fish don't. They use their ribs and gills, so they can bring oxygen in through their gills. And so the rib system is really more closely linked to the gill system. All animals, but in particular humans, have a very robust diaphragm connection. And it is because we have a lot of extra neurons in our brain compared to these other animals. We do have a lot more mental real estate. It's what allows for planning, and dogs have memory. They probably look into the future, but probably not as far as we do. We do a lot of long-term planning. We can orient our consciousness to the present, to the past, to the future. So you need a diaphragm to bring more oxygen up to the brain. That's really the reason. Any animal with a really big brain has a diaphragm. And it's kind of obvious that every cell in the body needs oxygen and needs to get rid of carbon dioxide for all these cellular processes. It's just that other animals, their skin is thin or they have gills, and so that oxygen can pass through. We have to bring oxygen into the lungs, and then it's distributed into the cells of the body through the vascular system, the blood supply. And because you can't get air through the thick skull. And some of us have skulls that are thicker than others, but that's an unrelated point. Sorry, that was a science joke. I couldn't help myself.
Super. Well, good to have some jokes in the past.
I'll answer one more question, then we should probably move to some breathing because that's primarily why we're here. But what's the neuroscience difference between breath holds at the top of a breath versus retention at the bottom? Very interesting question. So, and I just want to point people to, there's a book coming out. I've never met the guy, but this guy, James Nestor, He wrote a book on free diving, and then now he's got a book coming out called Breath. Maybe it's called Breathe. Anyway, he sent me a copy, and then I passed it along because that's what I do when I get books. I read them and then I give them along. And it's really great because he gets into all the practices. And I did have a conversation with James. So here's the idea: breath holds with lungs full and breath holds with lungs empty fundamentally activate what are called the baroreceptors, which are pressure receptors on the lungs and heart differently. Typically, if you do an exhale hold, your heart rate will increase slightly and you'll have a slight increase in alertness, believe it or not. An inhale hold, simply because you have oxygen in the system, even though there's pressure, your heart rate will start to drop a little bit. But these are subtle differences. And, but that's what we know. Now, of course, if you're doing a bunch of breathing, like a Tumo Wim Hof style breathing, where you're and you're exhaling a lot, you're going to dump a lot of carbon dioxide. And the impulse to breathe comes from heightened carbon dioxide. The neurons in the brain that trigger the inhale reflex they measure carbon dioxide in the bloodstream. Makes a lot of sense. Nature, she's so smart. She figured, well, let's just figure out when things are getting too much carbon dioxide, and then you'll naturally just bring in oxygen through the inhale. So that's what we know about that. And I wouldn't push too hard to, don't ever put yourself in a place of extreme discomfort, trying to do holds one way or the other. Sam knows more about this, but you want to work these practices as protocols, but you want to also be intuitive. Just like if you were doing a pose in yoga and the teacher says, do this, and you're feeling a twinge of sharp pain, that's a signal that, either you're not there yet or, something's not right. So I don't believe in pushing to these extremes. I mean, there's some fun edges you can explore with breathing, but it's not the goal isn't to blow a gasket. That's a non-scientific term.
Yeah, I think that's a key point, and also maybe a nice segue to get into some of the breathing for today. Underlying, as we always like to say, that not forcing the practice, and that through some of the protocols we do, whether it's the Wim Hof Method breathing or some other multidisciplinary type protocols that you can build into your toolkit to then even bring into real-time breathing practices out in your day-to-day life, that you never force it, and that though there could be some acute stressors that come up in your experience for some of the session we'll get in today. I noticed a few people mention the breath hold at the bottom can be a challenge, and as you very delicately start to engage to that acute edge of stress and discomfort or whatever sensations are there, that's the sweet spot, this Goldilocks principle. Find that just right spot, not too hot, not too cold, and trust the process of your gradual adaptation and growth, so that you're not going to burn yourself out or then have an adverse experience and program that into your neuroception and have different triggers come up when you start to engage into that acute stress. So Andrew, thank you so much for shining some light there. I'd love to segue now for everybody to get ready for the breathe. And then if you're cool with it, and depending on timing for everything, if you're able and interested, depending on questions that do come in, I know there's a few more that we could spend a little bit of time diving in at the end.
Sure, I'd be delighted to.
Super. So everybody, let's rock and roll, celebrating World Breathing Day together. And so just make yourself comfortable. If you want to start seated, we're going to do a few protocols kind of on the book. We're going to bookend them. So do a few protocols as a warm-up to get the diaphragm going, to get your lungs moving and bring your focus into the breathing practice. And then we'll go into some deeper rounds of breath, kind of Wim Hof Method style. And then we'll conclude with a few gentle protocols at the end to ground and integrate the practice. So if you'd like to start seated, you're welcome to. If you've been practicing breathing now for a while and you want to do your whole practice seated, that's totally cool. But for those that are just getting into the Wim Hof Method breathing, I recommend you laying down. And also just a note that laying down can allow your body to relax more, pelvis grounded to the floor for that intra-abdominal pressure and allowing your diaphragm to really work and operate smoothly. So in terms of everybody who's here together, a few quick notes that if there's anybody you're with or you are pregnant, to not dive into these rounds of breath. You can be with us and just breathe nice and slowly through your nose. Any past history with epilepsy or seizures, to refrain from diving into these deep rounds of breath with us today. And that this is a breath practice. Andrew spoke about real-time tools that you can deploy through your day-to-day. This is a very dedicated time that we're spending in a safe environment. You're in your home, somewhere comfortable, whether you're laying on your couch, and that these are not free diving breath techniques. So please don't do this in the water. Don't do this and try and hold your breath and go underwater. I think a lot of you are aware of that and just want to put it out there for those that are joining us for the first time. So really, safety is paramount going into these breath practices, and we'll just go with the flow. Underlying theme, no force, take it slow. I've got your back. I'm going to be guiding you through these rounds, so you don't even need to think about, 30 breaths, where are we at? Just follow the feeling, follow the flow. You may notice that at some points you get a little tingly in your fingers or somewhere in your body. We can talk about that after the breathing session. This is all normal physiological shifts that are happening from the way you're breathing. And you may feel a little bit luminous or lightheaded at some point through the breathe. And to know that you're always in control. So if at any point it feels like it's too much for you, you can just return back to your normal breathing. Give yourself a moment, maybe even just slow your breathing down. It's not a competition, comparison, anything like that. So trust yourself and be true to yourself, and we'll get into the breathe. So I'm just switching to gallery view because I love to see everybody. And if you want, just take the next moment to create your space. A pillow could be nice under your head if you're laying down. And we'll get started slowly. Yep, I'm gonna mute everybody. Thanks, Reese. Good looks, brother. Muting. It's World Breathing Day. Let's get our breathe on, guys. So we'll go through a few different rounds of breath and let's have some fun. Let's check in the chat box real quick. Super. Sound coming through for everybody okay? Nice, thumbs up, rock and roll time. Let's do a quick sound check. Okay, make yourself comfortable. Any little stretches you need to take to get set. And we'll begin as we usually begin, with breath awareness. So as you're ready, you can close your eyes. Maybe you bring one hand to your belly, one hand to your chest. If you'd like, you can adjust the volume depending how it's coming through. Is the music and the volume working okay for you guys? Super. So as we get started, breath awareness is an opportunity to step back and just watch. To notice whatever sensations are here. Physical sensations in your body. Tensions. Noticing even the patterning of breath. Does it feel like you're breathing into your lower hand? Feel like you're breathing more into your upper hand? Maybe it's a combination of both. scan, can you notice and locate somewhere in your body where you feel your heartbeat? Bringing awareness internally, this interoceptive awareness. It's here. Not labeling it as good or bad. Simply feeling. Does your heart rate feel elevated? Does it feel calm? Rhythm of breath in through your nose, out through your nose. Does it feel like you're breathing into one lung more than the other? Let's get started with a protocol, the one breath break. So what we'll do is take a full inhale and hold it at the top for 3 seconds. And then we'll take a long, long, long exhale and pause at the bottom. Just wait for your natural breathing stimulus. So together, through your nose, big full inhalation. Hold, 3, 2, 1, and let it go. All the air trickle out at the bottom, pause. Wait for that natural breathing stimulus. And then notice the sensation of your body giving you that trigger to breathe, not the thought. Nice. Let's do 2 more of those. Through your nose, full inhale. Hold for 3, 2, and let it go. Exhale like you're falling into the most comfortable bed. Relax your body all the way to the bottom of the exhale. Pause. Notice the breath's rounding the corner at the bottom of the exhale, triggering fluid, natural, smooth inhalation. And our last one, through your nose, big inhale. Hold for 3, 2, it's like a slingshot. Let it go, diaphragm relaxing, releasing all the air out, without force. And pause. Turn to your normal breathing as you're ready. I've been noticing now, has there been any shift in your internal state just from 3 breaths? What would you like to shift this morning? Would you like to breathe into? 2 more warm-ups. We'll do the 2-part inhale with long exhalation. Take it slow, no force. You can keep one hand on your belly, one on your chest. And we'll just do 5 breaths like that. So together, through your nose, belly, chest, and long exhale. Nice. So 2 sips on the inhale, belly, chest, and long exhale. Intuitive, belly, chest, lengthen. Controlled, conscious, 2 more, belly, chest, lengthen. Last one, belly, chest, long, long. Moment for breath awareness. Soften your belly, allow your diaphragm to do the work. Taking the tension out of the secondary breathing muscles, throat, shoulders. And our final warm-up, let's do a few rounds of box breathing. So it'll be a 1-1-1-1 cadence. We'll do it for 4 seconds. It'll be a 4-second inhale, 4-second hold at the top, 4-second exhale, 4-second hold at the bottom. Reset as you need. let's go with the flow. Together, inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold at the top. 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold at the bottom. 3, 2, 1. Nice focus. Inhale. Hold at the top. Exhale. Hold at the bottom. 2 more rounds. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And last round. Inhale. 3, 2, 1. Hold. Exhale. 3, 2, 1. Empty. Hold it at the bottom. 3, 2, 1. Just return back to normal breathing. Reset your positioning. We'll dive into some deeper rounds of breath now. Wim Hof Method style breathing, about 30 to 40 breaths. And we'll do an exhale retention at the bottom. Follow a few rounds like that. Make yourself comfortable. If you'd like, you can keep one hand on your belly, one on your chest, or even both hands on your belly, just as a reminder to soften the tissues down in your abdominals and really allow the freedom and fluidity of your diaphragm to move, so you can bring the air into the depths of your lungs, move the air, play with it, be intuitive. Let's get started. If you'd like, shut your eyes. Take it slow through the nose to start. Fill your belly. From your chest. Let it go. Nice and easy. Belly. Chest. Let it go. How fluid can you be at the bottom? Pick it right up. At the top, let it spill right out. Passive exhalation. At the bottom, you pick it up. And let it crash. Fluid like water. Fully in. And let it go. Building a rhythm internally. Belly soft, fully in. Take it to your chest. Let it go. Waves crashing on the shore. Let it draw back. Building to a peak. And then the wave crashes. Nice. In. Let it go. You're in control. You're now breathing manually, consciously. Some movement feels good for you. Rocking your pelvis forward on the inhale. Mobility through your spine. No force. Whatever residual tensions you may feel, as you dive into this rhythm of breath, know that each round your body begins to adapt. Each inhalation, target where there's tension at the peak of the wave, and then offer that tension up with your exhale. Fully in. Exhalations as an opportunity to release tension. Let's breathe together. In. And out. 10 more. Focused. Shift your attention to listening to the sound of your breath. Out of thinking about how it's going. Smooth. Nice. Belly soft. Expansion from the inside out. passively let it go. 5. Alive. 4. 3. Getting set for retention. 2. Slow these down. 1. Fully in, belly, chest. And then gently just let the air trickle out. Let it spill at the bottom. Pause. Pushing all the air out. Give yourself permission just to pause right here, holding your breath. Noticing any sensation, maybe a little bit tingly or buzzy. You shift from your thinking and bring your awareness to the feeling of your heartbeat. Where your hands located on your body. Bring your fingertips together. Just holding for a short period this first retention. Maybe that stimulus to breathe is starting to come as CO2 levels are rising now in your body. Consciously shifting chemistry. Let's hold for another 5, 4, 3, 2. And recovery breath through your nose, starting low and slow, belly soft, inhale. Full to 100% capacity, fill your chest, hold it at the top. Expansion through your rib cage, holding. 5, 4, can you relax any tension, face, 3, 2, and let the breath go. Nice, round 1. Let's go into the next one. Starting low and slow, belly, chest, expansion, and then let it crash. Body narrows as your diaphragm relaxes. Fully in. And let it go. Fully in. And let it go. Nice. Finding your rhythm. If it feels too fast, be true to yourself. Move the air. Dig deep. The breath is like an excavator, digging into the tensions, resistance of your mind. Where your attention goes, you allow your mind to just go there. Not trying to fix it. Allow your breathing and this conscious rhythm of breath to do the work. Not rushing the process. Circular, rhythmical pattern of breath. At the top, let it drop. The bottom, the wheel picks right up. So finding this circular pattern, like a wave. Breath builds to the peak, and then it crashes. Nice. Bringing more depth into each inhalation. Focus. If it feels good, you can bring some sighing into your exhale. For some vibration. Find your own unique expression. So inviting a little sense of gratitude for the opportunity just to be here together this Saturday morning. Stay with your breathing. For us all to be connected. This Global Awareness Day, to celebrate the power of breath. first thing you do, come into this world. 10, 9, just maybe the last thing you do as you leave. Savor the flavor. What type of breath are you creating right now? Feeling of freedom. 5. Feeling of calm. 4. That unique human quality. Bring your imagination into the type of breath you create. Feeling of confidence. 3. Getting set for our next retention. 2. It's up to you. Where do you want to go? 1 more. Slowly, fully in. Pause for a moment at the top. Allow your body to expand from the inside out. Relax your shoulders. And let it go. How effortlessly can you let the breath go? Give your body permission. It's floating on a comfy pillow. You may not even notice an urge to breathe. In an alkaline state, low levels of carbon dioxide in your body. So remember, that's the key stimulus, that primordial stress stimulus to tell you to breathe. So trust in this space right here that your body's adapting. It's learning to engage with these unique physiological processes, shifts in chemistry. And you're the captain in charge of that shift. So any underlying thoughts like, oh, this is uncomfortable, what's going on? You can even talk to yourself up from the inside and say, I'm committed to growth in this process. Just holding for a little bit longer. By engaging with this chemistry consciously in this way, you're stepping up to the edge. Find a whole new capacity within yourself, a whole new potential that lives in the intelligence of your cells. Let's hold for 5, 4. If you feel that urge to breathe, you can exhale a little bit more air out. 3, 2. Okay, recovery breath. Smooth, full inhalation. Hold it at the top. Receive this breath, your body recalibrating the chemistry, rewarding you for taking this breath. It's one breath to train yourself to be as efficient in the process. Flooding your body with oxygen. Set it free, holding for 5, 4, 3, 2. Let it go. Gentle. Into our next round. Fully in. Let it go. Just like the ocean, one wave builds, it crashes, churns back into the hole, draws back into the next wave. A smooth, natural process, breathing, fully in. Let it go. Shift around in whatever way you need to. Belly, chest, and marrow. This quality of expansion into relaxation. Play with some rhythms this round, starting slow. Keep your belly soft on the inhale. Create that intra-abdominal pressure and let it go. Use your diaphragm. Take the breath out of your shoulders, your neck, throat. Let it go. Fully in. If you notice that you're building excess tension at the top of your breath, just take a step back. Take the edge off of being forceful respiration. Stay fluid in your process. So there's no separation from one breath to the next. Continuous, fluid, circular motion. The bottom, the breath rounds and builds to the top. And then it crashes and rounds to the bottom. Churning, churning. Nice, let's keep it up. Shift the chemistry. Remember, every exhale, yes, you're offloading CO2, creating an alkaline state, triggering a buzzy sensation in your body. Where can you direct your breathing? Beautiful. You're doing great. About 10 more breaths this round. Keep your focus. What do you want to tap into? What can you let go of here? Judgment, analyzation of how it's going, where you're at. Just trust the process. This natural process of growth. Whatever movement feels liberating for you, rocking your pelvis, expansion through your chest. Set your mind. Before retention, 5 more. Maybe a bonus smile. Yes, 4. Raise the sensation, slow it down. 3. How smooth can you be? 2. At the top, just let it drop. Last one at the bottom, picking it up, fully in. And let it go. Trickling into your attention. And find that neutral space. So this is where your diaphragm's relaxed, but not forcing the air all the way out. This a neutral buoyancy of the pressurization between your internal environment and your external environment. Just like a buoy that's floating on the water. Suspended in chemistry, tingliness. Give yourself permission to pause in this breath retention. No matter the swirling of sensation that may feel like a storm, the thoughts, to imagine like your body's a sponge right now, soaking up vital oxygen from your blood. This beautiful physiological phenomena. As you're holding your breath and the CO2 is building, it allows the oxygen to offload from the hemoglobin in your blood so that your tissues and your cells can receive that vital energy, supercharge your body, trigger these beautiful, powerful adaptations. If you notice the sensation to breathe, you can exhale a little bit more air, holding for just a little bit longer. Notice, where's there tension showing up in your body as perhaps stress of the CO2 is starting to percolate? Can you allow it to drain? Pause, holding here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and then with calm awareness, taking in your recovery breath, slowly, consciously soften your belly, activate your diaphragm, draw your breath in fully, let it spill in. Expand your rib cage. Take on the full capacity of your breath, fully in, holding at the top. Recalibrate. Let your mind fly free. No control. Trust. Surrender. Holding. 5, 4, 3, 2, and let it go. You're falling into that comfy bed, most comfortable bed ever. Cloud and my pillow. And let's get right into one more round together. Belly, chest, let it go. It's the sweet spot. You've been doing great work. Body's primed, ready just to get right into the rhythm. Your body knows what to do. Follow the feeling. Our last round together of deeper breath protocols. Fully in. And let it go. The bottom, pick it right up. And let the wave crash. Crashes on the shore, draw it back. Find your peak and flow. Unique expression. Each breath, how are you creating it? Drawing the air into the depths of your lungs. All those little, the majority of those little sacs are. So you can take on that chemical shift. Be the conscious captain. Do your work. It's a celebration. Life. Connected here. People all over the world. It's love. For life. Just do your best. Soften your belly. Allow the breath to expand all the way to your pelvic floor, mid-back. Expansion through your rib cage. And let it relax, just spill out. Beautiful. Just breathe together. If your body feels like it wants to pick up the pace, you're totally welcome to. The RPMs are revving a little higher. You can meet it with that rhythm of breath. The sensations are building, and your body's feeling a deeper charge, and it's getting a little overwhelming. Slow it down. Learn control. Let's let it flow. Ten. Deepen your inhalation. 5. Yeah, getting set for attention. 4. 3, slowing down. 2, you're in control. Tell yourself where we're going. Getting set for attention. Last one, smooth, soften, expand. And as you're ready, let it go. And pause. the interoceptive awareness. It's in your body. Permission to release resistance. Nothing to fix. Holding breath retention. Allow this chemistry to shift. CO2 levels rising. You're in control without trying to control. Just allowing the process to unfold. Just as thoughts arise, and you let them be. Just by simply watching, noticing what comes up, whether it's emotion, sensation. If you feel your urge to breathe, step to that edge of growth. Commit to that edge of growth and discomfort. Exhale a little bit more air out. Suspended in this possibility. Gratitude for this opportunity to adapt to shifting conditions. And let this be an intuitive round. So if you'd like, you can stay and hold for as long as you'd like. Just as a possibility, like curiosity. Where can I take myself to this morning? It's an invitation just to step into potential. It's possible for me. Holding breath. If you've taken your recovery breath, that's totally cool. Just return to your normal breathing. If you're still in your retention, collectively, let's hold for another 10. Or you could stay longer if you'd like. 5. Join in if you want. Recovery breath. Low and slow to start. Calm awareness, belly soft. Take the breath into the depths of your lungs. Activate your diaphragm fully in. And hold. About 15 seconds. 5. As you're ready, let it go. Nice. Returning back to your normal breathing. Gently in and out through your nose. Just giving yourself a moment of breath awareness to check in. To notice whatever sensations are with you now. How has your state shifted? How has your thought process shifted? The thoughts that were with you when you started are still present. Sensations or tensions, how have they shifted? And let's conclude with this last protocol. We'll do the step down protocol. So it'll be in for 4, out for 4, a few rounds there, in for 4, out for 8. And we'll step down the ladder like that. Just a couple rounds and calibrate chemistry in the body. So as you're ready, shift around. And if you can, do this just in and out through your nose. So together, let's get started. Through your nose, fill your belly, soft, in, 3, 2, 1. Nice. Out. 3, 2, 1. In. This is breath control. Out. How smooth can you be? In. 3, 2, 1. Out. 3, 2, 1. In for 4. Out for 8, 7, 6. Lengthen. 4, 3, 2, 1. In for 4. Out for 8. Drain from the bottom up. Empty, empty. In. Out. Empty, empty, empty. In for 4. Out for 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Almost done. 3, 2, 1. In. 3, 2, 1. Out for 12. Slow drain. Almost empty. And last round. In for 4. Out 12. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. And our last one will be what I've been calling the cocktail straw breath. So imagine like there's a tiny little hole as you purse your lips, and you'll try and make your exhale as long as you can. Everyone will be a little bit different. It's totally cool. See how far you can go without forcing this. Together, starting through your nose, full inhale. Push your lips, make a tiny little hole. Let the air out slowly, like you're breathing through one of those tiny little cocktail straws. How long can you extend this exhale? Relax the musculature in your face, your throat. Extend, regulate. Super long for you and you're still in your exhalation. If you've finished, we'll just do one more so you can go right into it. Noticing if any tension arises in your secondary breathing muscles. Can you relax your shoulders and neck? Exhale, allow the pelvic floor to engage from the bottom, like you're squeezing a toothpaste tube from the bottom up. All the air coming from the bottom, belly, low lungs, and then final little sips of breath come out from your chest. Nice work. You're finished. Just return now back to your normal breathing. Hands to your belly, or somewhere intuitively on your body that feels just right this morning. Soften the muscles around your eyes. Relax the hinge of your jaw. Just a few moments for everything to solidify. Notice the sounds that are outside of your head, happening in your physical space. External awareness. What sounds can you hear? Maybe even sounds that are outside your house. Bird. Shift your attention inward. The rhythm of your heartbeat. This collective heartbeat, coherently connected all over the world. Everybody here together. Support in unknown times. This potential we have to co-regulate. Gratitude for connection. To have appreciation even for the opportunity to utilize our technology to stay connected. Acknowledge yourself for being here. It's a commitment to a deeper learning. Commitment to connecting to your nature. Sharing that nature with others. To nurture that nature with loving awareness. What are the sensations that came up? Emotion. It's all part of the process. Shifting energy, connecting to yourself. Just embracing this full spectrum of emotion in the human experience. What it is to be alive. Constantly growing. Let's take one last big full breath in together through your nose. And sigh it out. Beautiful. Thank you all for breathing here together. Such a treat. Gratitude, love, appreciate all of you connecting. So take your time. If you'd like, you could even stay where you are, laying down or seated with your eyes closed. Beautiful way to shift into a meditation. And maybe that meditation can be some more beautiful and wise words from Andrew and some questions from everybody. I see the chat box lighting up here. Just going to turn the music down. So, yeah, if you do have a question, I'd invite you to drop it in the chat box. And you're welcome, everybody. Thanks for all the love here. I'm just reading through. Killer. Yeah, it's a great way to start the day. Happy World Breathing Day, everybody. I've got you all in the gallery view so I can see everybody's face, and it's so nice to see you all.
I wasn't invited to talk, but I'm going to talk. Can you hear me? I don't know if I'm.
Yes, you're live.
I don't know about you all, but and Sam, did we meet in Spain?
No,
I don't think. We've never actually met, we've never actually met, correct?
Yeah, well, so I found Andrew because he was in a video that was done with Wim, and so I started following Andrew's work, and then I had found that you were doing that study with one of your colleagues, Melissa, and you were doing I actually have the study right here, behavioral and autonomic measurements of the healthy fear responses and effects of non-invasive therapeutic interventions. That's the VR study.
Yeah. So I was going to be embarrassed if we had met in person. I don't know, because I spent some time with Wim mountaineering in Spain a few years ago, and there were some other folks there, but I was so jet lagged. But the reason I ask is as a precursor, I'm happy to answer questions, but I just want to say thank you you got all the chat box is lighting up, but you have a gift for bringing people together, and what you're doing is really important. And I know there are other people on this session that are doing work with communities. And I want to say thanks to you and to everyone. Even if you inform one person about a practice or tell them what you you've done with these practices, it really does make a difference. You know, science doesn't really get out that quickly or that easily. So Sam, you're doing amazing work, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of everybody. And my bulldog Costello slept through the whole thing, but he was doing double inhale exhales, so he loved it
Super.
also. But I just want to say thank you. I think I speak on behalf of everyone when I say thanks so much, but the chat box says it all. So thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been a pleasure to have you on, and I so appreciate and respect what you're doing in the field, and it's been such a delight to be learning from you. And so when I found all of your work, to imagine, I mean, some of my story is that I grew up really struggling to learn. I couldn't read when I was in like 3rd grade. I had all these beliefs about myself being stupid, and I even struggled all the way through college getting assignments done because my mind was just so consumed in this thought of like looking for the answer all the time. And as I got into these breathing practices and ice baths and all of this super fun work that I love to share, it brought me into this real passion and wonder for learning, and I never could have imagined that I'd find a joy in now reading scientific journals and publications, and that I would even have found this unique spark and curiosity about neuroscience. So I feel so grateful to know you and what you're doing and the contribution that's had on my learning. And you know, I came to your lab super excited to be in that VR study. Maybe you can speak about it if you'd like a little bit, but I missed you that day. I met Gary, your colleague and close friend, and you know, from there we've just sparked up some conversation, and over the last couple of years now, building to this point to have an opportunity to welcome you to the things I've been doing with the community here, and look forward for more of that to come.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we're always running experiments. I'll do some announcements about experiments that we're going to start doing remotely, just because in the COVID-19 thing makes it hard for people to come to lab. I'll put some of those to the Instagram, and there's a good chance that we're going to be recruiting to do sessions at a distance, very much like this. Maybe even some mail-in cortisol measures and things. We're going to have to adapt. So that's all a work in progress, but. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and everybody. I want to say extra points to people who had dogs and cats and other animals in the windows. That was cool. And then one person, I won't say who it was, their child. I think that's a Boston Terrier that I can see right now. And then there was like a lab type dog that a child was riding the dog, just warning to the parent. It was awesome. There was a kid riding a dog around, and it was fantastic. I think there's a Yorkie there. I'm a huge animal lover, all animals of all kinds. So for me, I live with Costello, and so we've been quarantining, and we're sort of like the odd couple. We like talk to each other and argue and stuff. So this has been a real treat for me to see so many faces and animals. So thank you.
Yeah, I see a lot of dogs on here.
I see more dogs. Awesome. They know. There's another dog. Oh, wow. There are a lot of dogs. I see. I don't know what that white shaggy dog is, but it's beautiful. I love all dogs. And then, there are a lot of dogs on here. All right. This is totally lighting up my dopamine neurons like crazy. Yes. So this is where I sort of regress into a child and I start getting giddy about animals. So I'm going to stop there. Thanks so much.
Yeah. I'm just circling back to the chat box. I do. Thank you, everyone, for the kind words here. I love you all, and I'm so glad we can share this time. And just, Andrew, I want to respect your time, too. I know you're maybe itching to get back to writing your book or maybe having some dog time. But if you were interested to answer a few questions, or if anybody did want to address it, you're welcome to even take your mic off and just say hi. Does that work for you, Andrew? A couple minutes here?
Sure. I have time to answer a couple questions. I will have to hop here in a minute. We'll just have to do this again. But let me scroll through real quick and see if there are any that I can answer succinctly. Someone asked, what's the number one go-to tool over the last month to keep my mind body humming in unison? Well, I do that double inhale exhale thing periodically throughout the day, and that's just sort of how I recalibrate. So that's the one I actually use that one. Let's see, scrolling here quickly. There was a question here about alkalinity.
Yeah, can you touch on the significance of creating an alkaline state in the body from a
Yeah.
neuroplasticity perspective?
Yeah. So I think that the most straightforward way to explain this is when you blow off a lot of carbon dioxide, or when you do what we just did was called super oxygenated breathing. I mean, if we were going to get technical about it, you bring in a little extra oxygen, you're blowing off a little extra carbon dioxide. So as I mentioned before, you're eliminating the impulse to inhale because you're blowing off carbon dioxide. That's why you don't want to do it near water, right? Because then you can forget that you actually need to breathe and pass out underwater. So that's why you never want to do it underwater or near water. But so as you super oxygenate and you exhale out excess carbon dioxide, you get a slight shift in alkalinity. You know, despite whatever people say, like, oh, this drink is going to make you really alkaline or whatever, alkalinity isn't really something you don't really want to shift your body's pH too much. It's not too healthy, but a slight shift in pH, if you get a little more alkaline, does something to the interaction between oxygen and hemoglobin that basically makes the availability of oxygen. Hemoglobin is this molecule in the blood. So you inhale oxygen and it passes from the lungs into the bloodstream, and then it's carried in the bloodstream it's usually bound to hemoglobin, which is just kind of this raft carrying it off to the various cells. And it's going to hop off and or go into cells and take care of those cells because they need that oxygen. So this is for aficionados, there's aerobic respiration and this kind of thing if you want to read up more about it. When you make yourself slightly more alkaline, you get a transient. It lasts about anywhere from 5 minutes to a couple hours, really, an increase in what's called, you get something called the Bohr effect, BOHR, which is the availability of oxygen. You can basically pack more oxygen onto the hemoglobin molecule, and then you can also, it can dislodge more oxygen when an organ is active. So this is why, like, if you're getting 30 push-ups out or 20 push-ups or whatever it is, and were you to do the breathing, like kind of cyclic superoxygenation, so 30 breaths, a little quicker, more vigorously, and then exhale all your air and start doing push-ups, what you'd find is you'd hit, maybe your max push-ups of, 15, 20 or so, and then you'd suddenly be able to do more. And if you inhaled again, then you'd be able to do even more. So you're able to super oxygenate the cells, and that has effects on the mitochondria and how much energy is available to the cells in those moments. So you get a transient but a significant increase in your oxygen utilization, your mitochondrial activity, and hasn't really been explored in detail what the longer term benefits of that are, but they seem pretty significant. And as well, when you do that breathing, you're stimulating some adrenaline release, which sounds bad, but actually, for those of you that are getting periodic blips, increases in stress from time to time, just like heart rate variability is good, increases in stress from time to time and heart rate increases, those are actually good. They stimulate your immune system to be active. If you've ever worked really hard and then rested and you got sick at the end when you rested, or you were taking care of somebody or an animal and you're taking care of them and you could do it, and then you stop and you get sick, that's because stress, Mother Nature wired the stress response to be coupled to the immune response. It makes sense on times of famine or for child rearing. I remember when Costello was a puppy, he was keeping me up all night. It's like you're go, go, go. And the nervous system tells the cells of the organs of the body that make white blood cells and will not churn out more white blood cells. So stress is bad when it's chronic and elevated, but it's actually quite good it keeps our immune system tuned up. So let's see.
Yeah,
And
that's
then
something I love about this breathing, and that there are acute little stressors along the way, so that you're starting to build that capacity and that resiliency.
yeah. If you want to participate in the study, you can direct message me at Instagram. I'll put out a big call because we're still recruiting. We've got 500 students recruited. And we're going to get past. We're not just going to include Stanford students. So that'll be announced soon. Someone said, "What's the book called?" The book is Breath by James Nestor, Nestor. And that's not out yet, but I think it's on pre-sale and it's really, really good. I got a chance to peek at it. there's some really cool stuff in there. He spent 3 weeks with his mouth covered or his nose covered, and I won't tell you what the answer is, but it's really, really cool what he discovered. And yeah, I think that's it. I think we'll do it again. We'll do it again.
Super. Yeah, I look forward to it. And what a great way to start the weekend off. Thank you to everybody who's tuned in. I know some people had to jump, and such a pleasure to share this time. Andrew, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're welcome.
For all the work you're doing to contribute.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone. I get lots of dogs and some cats. I like cats too. I like all animals. I don't see any birds or parrots, but that's probably good. Birds should probably be flying. I think. All right. Thank you, Sam, and everyone. I hope to meet you in person someday. If you're ever in the area, shoot me a DM, and once things return to normal, we'll get you into the lab to visit or be a subject.
Absolutely. Yeah, look forward to it. Good luck with the book if you're writing today, and appreciate your time, brother. It was great to have you on.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everybody. This warms me to know that there are people like you out there.
Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome, guys. Well, happy to hang out for a couple minutes. If there are any other questions, if you need to jump. I know we did go a little bit over.